Governor Scott had a rough week as he was dogged yet again by hecklers who jeer his record on the environment.
You're killing us!
After 10 minutes of this, he slipped out the back door of his own campaign event in Venice as his critics called him a coward.
Coward! Coward!
It highlights one of the governor's biggest weaknesses as a politician that we have seen over and over again.
Rich people like you don't know what to do. When poor people like us need health services, you cut them. Shame on you, Rick Scott.
After all these years, he still has not mastered the art of the comeback.
There you go again. How dare you?
I'm glad you had your day to show off. Sit down and shut up.
Listen, you're in my house.
It is a shame that I have to go out and buy things for my daughter's classroom because of shortage of funds.
Thanks for coming.
Most leading politicians will give as good as they get, but when Governor Scott is confronted, he often just takes it.
Governor, don't forget your pink slip.
Meanwhile, he is also known to dodge questions that challenge his record, press him to take a stance. He has done that for years.
Yes or no on increasing the minimum wage?
Well, my focus is on how do we get more high-paying jobs. That's what I go after every day.
Like yes or no?
Well, I'm gonna get more jobs in the same.
And when pressed once again, he tends to struggle with a comeback. Do you support a higher minimum wage in Florida, yes or no?
I support more jobs.
But do Florida voters not have a right to know if you support a higher?
If you want to do the interview, go over here. Right.
Well,
we are growing jobs in our state.
If you want to do the interview, we can go over there. That was his comeback. In the stress of the moment, Governor Scott does not appear to think well on his feet. And then his press office often comes back with a strong response after the fact. It's the George from Seinfeld problem.
Yes! That's what I should have said!
Yes, this week the governor's press office made a lot of noise over Scott's decision to increase funding to fight red tide. He just brought the total up to $13 million. But the protesters also made a lot of noise and knocked Scott off his game. This is a fork in the road for Governor Scott. The water pollution crisis will likely make or break his Senate campaign based on where we go from here. That's when we have toxic green slime oozing through fresh water and scientists saying it could be making the naturally occurring red tide worse. Scott cannot just slip out the back door and expect to win. And his MO of addressing questions by saying, as you know, then telling you something unrelated you already know, then slipping away also won't work.
As you know, the Supreme Court put that on the ballot.
Well, as you know.
Governor, why are you in such a hurry to leave?
Floridians across the aisle place a high value on the environment, and Scott did dismantle regulations meant to protect our water and bragged of hundreds of millions of dollars in cuts to the state agencies that manage water quality and cut back on septic tank inspections and funding for environmental enforcement. Scott now has to answer for the toxic green slime that feeds off of pollution. Walking away from his own events when he's under fire can make it look as if he's walking away from his record. If Scott truly thinks the hecklers are out of bounds, he might want to try Ronald Reagan's approach.
Oh, shut up.
Of course, he would have to back that up with a persuasive explanation of his prior decisions and a commitment to directly answer as many tough questions as he can about this. And on that note, we've asked Governor Scott to field our questions on the water crisis one-on-one. And we've also asked Senator Bill Nelson and Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis to do the same, because voters often judge their leaders on how they defend their records and how they respond to crisis. We'll let you know what they say or don't say in the coming rounds of Money, Power, and Politics.